Yeah, I'm starting to see people come in the live. You know how we do. I'm gonna let people come into the live before I get started. You can share this with your timeline, please. We're gonna talk about something very important today. Some exciting international news today. Good evening, brother. What it do? How you doing, brother? What it do, bro? What it do? How y'all doing this evening? Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. God bless Biafra. Yes, indeed. God bless Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Yes, indeed. God bless all our freedom fighters. Free all our political prisoners and prisoners of war. Free Dr. Mutulu Shakur. All praises due to the ancestors. All praises due to all our sheroes and heroes around the globe, fighting for freedom and liberation and sovereignty for their peoples. You feel me? So, I'm going to just let this live fill up real quick. We're going to talk about this dope, transpiring events that have been taking place over the weekend. That's good, my brother. That's good. Hold on, let me share this live real quick with my other followers before I get into it. Let me share this with my timeline. There we go. There we go. Greetings, y'all. Greetings. As you come in this live, please share this live with your peoples, with all our peoples. Let's get it in. All right, let me get back to what I want to talk about. I hope everybody across the globe is having a beautiful, blessed Monday. I definitely wanted to come on and talk about this current events that's going on right now. Two beautiful events that transpired over the weekend, man, that I want to chop it up real quick, man. This video is strictly about, what the struggle is truly about and what we're trying to truly accomplish as, African people, Biafran people, New African people, globally, you feel me? Which is getting these referendums, getting these referendums going, to get these nations free, to get, to take back what is rightfully ours, which is our identities, the land, the resources, you feel me? And to become, official nation states, you feel me? Which is true freedom and liberation. If people who don't understand what true freedom and liberation is about, it's about having your own land, your own nation, your own government, your own laws, your own spiritual systems, you feel me? Living in complete harmonious, freedom, which is nationalism. I told you I'm gonna start doing these lives, and I'm gonna start pushing more into nationalism so we can popularize nationalism. Because let me say this before I get into this topic, man, so we can get this understood. Period. All indigenous African people globally, trust me when I tell you this, man, it's the fact that being a nationalist and embracing nationalism, you feel me, is one of the most indigenous organic things, you see what I'm saying, that has ever came into existence, because we was birthed into being nationalistic people. You see what I'm saying? Our existence on this earth, we came into this planet, you see what I'm saying, this physical realm, nationalistic. That is our culture. It's bigger than just, a political ideology. This is something that we got to understand when it comes to nationalism and being nationalistic. It's larger and deeper than just a political objective and an aspiration and goal. No, nationalism is a way of life. If you're African, you feel me? If you're an African freedom-loving people, then you know that this is cultural, this is economical, this is political, this is spiritual. You feel me? Being a nationalist and wanting to, be a free, what I'm saying, independent, nationalistic people. I don't care where you live at. If you're oppressed people right now and you love freedom and you want freedom from your people, then we got to start pushing this nationalism and start popularizing nationalism to all African people globally. I'm doing this specifically because I'm trying to get my people here in the United States of America to understand that it's okay to be a nationalist. It's okay to be a, a revolutionary nationalist and believing in wanting something much more important for your people, which is freedom. You feel me? And returning back to what we are as our identities. You feel me? And nationhood for our peoples before our peoples were attacked by European imperialism and European nations and kidnapped our people and brought them to the African diaspora. You feel me? So I just wanted to put that out there. You feel me? But what I'm going to be talking about today is two beautiful things that I seen over the weekend, as far as the referendum struggle, which is, which makes it significant. Pay attention. Which makes it significant to independent movements that are going on right now amongst ethnic groups and, people who already consider themselves nations, like the Republic of Biafra, the Republic of New Africa, Alstalon, Catalina, Puerto Rico, I don't want to leave nobody out, Ambazonia, Kurdistan, Pakistan, not Pakistan, Palestine, not Pakistan, Palestine. Who else, man? I don't want to leave nobody out. West Papua. If you're not following the West Papua struggle right now, I would suggest you do so, man, because these brothers and sisters, these indigenous peoples of West Papua have been fighting for independence for over the last 50 years. You see what I'm saying? Just as well as the, New African independence movement and as well, even before that, you feel me, with the Biafran struggle. You feel me? Which has been fighting, ever since, Nigeria colonized them. You feel me? The British colonized them. So let me just put that out there. And let me just state this, man, because we got to clear up a thing before I really get into it. And the peoples that I'm talking about the Bougainville. The Bougainville referendum took place over this weekend. The Sidama referendum took place in Ethiopia over the weekend. If you have not, if you have not seen the news about the Bougainville referendum and the Sidama referendum, I suggest you to go look that up. Go research. It's all in the news. You see what I'm saying? Two African groups, two African, peoples who took place in their referendums to get themselves a nation state. You feel me? Over the weekend has took place, has manifested. They have voted on their, self-determined reality on what they want to do as a people. And we already know from what I'm seeing from the results is that the Bougainville people have declared, over 80-some% that they want an independent state. They want their island to become an independent state from, to gain independence from Papua New Guinea, which is the island that has control over the Bougainville's people. You feel me? They're under that government. So they're trying to break away from the Papua New Guinea government. You see what I'm saying? That's big news. You feel me? So go look that up, the Bougainville referendum. I'm going to get into that in a few seconds on why that's important to, the Biafra struggle, the Republic of New Africa struggle, and all the struggles for oppressed peoples, you know what I'm saying? The Sidama referendum. And this is a more unique referendum that took place in Ethiopia over the weekend, is that the Sidama people have been fighting for this referendum and fighting for independence for over 100 years within the Ethiopia, you see what I'm saying, country. You feel me? So this is a big significant because Ethiopia, this something we got to understand. Something Ethiopia does their, you know what I'm saying? How can I put it? Ethiopia is a little bit different when it comes to these type of things, and somebody that we should pay attention to and we should look at as an example. Because out of all these referendums, is the thing we got to understand is this. Out of all these referendums, I do believe Ethiopia has the best system when it comes to referendums. You see what I'm saying? Because they have been given these other ethnic groups inside Ethiopia their autonomy. You feel me? Their independence. You see what I'm saying? They're letting these ethnic groups set up their own states, nation states within Ethiopia, and giving these groups back their autonomous power, their control over their lives and their peoples. You see what I'm saying? So this will be like the Sidama referendum and the Sidama nation state that they're trying to bring into existence. The Sidama people is that this would be like the ninth, if I'm not mistaken, this would be like the 9th or 10th ethnic group or ethnic region that has, you know what I'm saying, took place in a referendum and has gained independence from Ethiopia and autonomous power back to their regions. This would be like the 10th or the 9th region. So now we're looking at Ethiopia. Ethiopia is setting the bar high. You see what I'm saying? Ethiopia is really right now showing all these oppressive imperialist countries like Nigeria, the British, the United States of America, even Israel, because Israel right now is still oppressing Palestine, when all Israel has to do is give Palestine people their statehood. You see what I'm saying? This is the thing people don't get, man. And this is the thing that makes me upset. This is what makes me upset about a lot of these oppressive governments is this, man. It's enough land. People, listen to what I'm saying. It's enough land and resources to give people their nation states, man. It's enough land to give ethnic groups their independence. So the thing that's so crazy about all this is that these oppressive governments are so evil. Listen to what I'm telling you. They're so controlling and repressive and so evil and greedy. Let's throw greedy in there. You got to throw greedy in there because this type of stuff is going on all across the globe, people. You have ethnic groups all across the globe in all these countries, oppressed ethnic groups who are fighting for their independence, people. It ain't just Biafra. It ain't just the Republic of New Africa. It ain't just the Puerto Rican people. It ain't just these, you know what I'm saying, more, globalized, popularized independent struggles. No, we have small independent ethnic struggles that's going on every day in every country across the globe and continents. So the thing with Israel is that give Palestine people their land because you took some of their land, period. The majority of their land. So this is why mankind is so abnormal. You know what I'm saying? I ain't talking about all mankind. I'm talking about the ruling class of mankind that's keeping all these ethnic groups oppressed and repressed and not giving them their independence. Is this, man, is that you're so abnormal and so haterish that you cannot give people their land or come to a common sense, logical decision and divide the land up so everybody can have, you know what I'm saying, their own. You see what I'm saying? That's the simple, resolution to these problems. The simple resolution to these problems is give the ethnic groups who want to separate, who are tired of being oppressed, the land that they need and the land that they demand by their human rights so they can set up their own nations, so they can be, so this problem can be solved. It's very simple to solve these issues. But you want to know why these issues don't get solved? Because you have repressive governments like Nigeria, United States, Britain, France, Saudi Arabia, Israel, who are greedy. They're greedy. They want to keep people enslaved. You see what I'm saying? Because that's all it breaks down to, is that these countries don't want to let these people go or let our people go because they need us. You see what I'm saying? They need us so bad. They want to keep us so enslaved so bad to capitalize off of us and our labors so bad that they refuse to solve these issues very common sensely and logical, which is just give us independence. Let us have a referendum. Let us decide our, destiny. It's very simple, people. So that's what makes these things, that's what makes these things so disappointing, man. Because it's like they killing Palestinians, Palestinians killing them. You see what I'm saying? Israel killing Palestinians, Palestinians killing Israel people, when all you have to do is divide the land up and give the land to Palestine people and let them set up their own nation state. The same thing with Nigeria. It's the same thing. Nigeria, why keep holding people hostage who no longer wants to be a part of your government or a part of your country? Give them their land. Give them their nationality. Give them their nation state, which is Biafra. You feel me? Same thing with what's going on in the United States of America, with all the oppression that new Africans have been going through for over 400 years. Just give the people here who don't want to be a part of the United States of America no longer, give us our land that you owe our ancestors, and give us our land that you took from our ancestors, and give us our land and give us our autonomy and our autonomous power, our political power. Give it to us. Let us go off to our own. You see what I'm saying? That's how you resolve all these issues, people. But the main reason that these countries like to repress referendums and like to oppress people and don't want to give them independence, resources. The resources in the land. Because most of these ethnic groups, listen to what I'm telling you. Most of these ethnic groups, these oppressed peoples, have the land that they own and the land that they're demanding is enriched with resources. So much resources that these evilistic governments don't want to let these people go because they want to control the people and they want to control the labor of those resources. This is facts, people. They want to control the land. This is what this is all about. They want to control the land. They want to control the people. They want to control the resources that's on that land. You see what I'm saying? But the thing people don't get is that it's enough resources for everybody. That Mother Earth is enriched with resources for everyone to live in harmonious peace. That's all people are trying to accomplish, is harmonious peace. The human right to be a people in the world global community. That's all people want. Just give them their human right. They want to be a global people, a global identity, a global flag. You see that flag? A global flag that represents their people and to live in harmonious peace. That's all these people are asking for. That's all we're asking for as new Africans in America. If you can't get along with certain ethnic groups, this is what you need to understand. If you cannot get along with other ethnic groups and you cannot stop oppressing them, then you need to let those people go. If you can't stop killing them people, you need to let those people go. Because all this cycle is going to continue from generation to generation. Death, murder, oppression, slavery. You feel me? And it's time for a change, people. Too many people have died. Too many people are still in prison. All the political prisoners that's in prison all across the world who've been fighting this struggle to free their people are still in prison. It's time to free these people, man. It's time to free the land. This is why we say free the land. You feel me? It's very simple. But as long as, like I always keep telling people, but as long as you have capitalism, as long as you have imperialism, and in some cases, as long as you still have structured capitalist racism and repression, these things are going to continue, and people are going to remain getting killed and oppressed by their oppressors. Simple as that. This shit is simple dialectic materialism. It's simple historic materialism. You have to study that, man, to understand that. Period. Just let people go. Let them have their own. This is how you, man, so many of these issues could have been resolved. But instead, you have evilistic governments and puppets and their regimes, you feel me, that want to continue to murder indigenous righteous peoples, man. Oppressed peoples who just want their own. And that's why you're going to continue to see the uprisings across the globe that's taking place right now. All these uprisings you're seeing across the globe are going to continue, man, till you give these people their human rights, their human dignity, their national identity, their culture back, their language back, their resources back, their land back. It's going to continue. Just like Israel had the right, the human right to nationhood and statehood, why don't Palestinians have that human right? See, this is all, I don't usually take sides. I don't take sides when it comes to these type of things, but a lot of people like to take sides. This shit ain't about taking sides. This is about what's right and what's wrong. If you're a freedom-loving, righteous human being, then you should understand what's right and what's wrong. What's right and what's wrong is that everybody on this planet deserves freedom, deserves sovereignty, deserves statehood, deserves their own. This is facts. You don't have to take sides. You have to see what's right, what's wrong. Biafran people deserve their freedom. They deserve their restoration. You feel me? New Africans in North America, they have the human right. We have the human right to our self-determination and our aspirations of independence. That's a human right. We have the right to determine our lives, our identity, our culture, language, spirituality, economics. That's our human right. Nobody has the right to control that. Nobody has the right to repress that. Nobody has the right to kill that. Nobody does. No government, no people have the right to hold authority over another people. That is wrong. Period. And this is why we have to push nationalism to the top. 2020 and beyond, man. We have to support everybody's right to self-determination, nationhood, statehood as a people, period. And especially in Africa, the African diaspora and the African continent, we must rise. We must support each other's rights to self-determination, period. And we have to work together to accomplish that. So that's why I'm so happy to see the Sidama people of Ethiopia and all these ethnic groups across Africa who are now uprising to demand these referendums. These referendums are important, man. That's why I'm always posting these referendums, because we need to let everybody see that everybody has a right to a referendum. That's a human right. That's a human right. If a group get together, if an ethnic nation or ethnic group gets together and them get together as a people and they want to determine their destiny and their self-determined reality, they have the right to form a referendum. If they're getting oppressed, murdered, genocided, just like in West Papua, that's going on right now, on the same island as the the Papua New Guinea colonizers. You see what I'm saying? Like when genocide is taking place on the people, they have the right to organize, establish, and execute a referendum. This is the most important thing you have to understand. Just like Africans, new Africans in America, we've been getting genocided for 400 years. 400 years. And even recently, over the last 50 years, we have the right to establish, execute a referendum, to vote, to determine what we want to do as a people. That's a human right. You feel me? And we have organizations that have been doing that. The Black Panther Party, the Republic of New Africa, the Revolutionary Action Movement. All these organizations, all these Black Liberation Movement organizations have done that. They have pushed for referendums and plebiscites. And let me clear that up for the record right now with the plebiscite and the referendum. What is the difference between the referendum and the plebiscite? Because a lot of people get confused on a plebiscite and a referendum. But the basic thing about both of them is that I would like to say that going off the definition, and this is the definition, a referendum poses a yes or a no vote to electorate and calls for the results of a vote to be legally binding. The plebiscite is kind of like the opposite of that, is that a plebiscite poses a yes or no vote to the electorate and does not require the results to be legally binding. You see what I'm saying? That's the difference between a referendum and a plebiscite, is that the people that's holding the referendum under a certain government, one, which is the referendum, is that when you vote in the referendum, is that it's to be held in a legal standing, a legal binding. Now, when it comes to a plebiscite, that government or the people that's holding the referendum, you feel me, that they're trying to get the referendum passed through, that government doesn't have to, they don't have to adhere to that plebiscite in a legal manner. That means they don't have to do nothing. They can ignore a plebiscite. They don't even have to, acknowledge the plebiscite because it's not legal binding. You see what I'm saying? But when it comes to a referendum is legal binding. You see what I'm saying? It's constitutional. So that means that they have to adhere to the referendum. But in this case, so a lot of people don't get it confused, is that when you're dealing with a repressive government, a repressive nation, to be honest, a referendum and a plebiscite is still the same thing, because that repressive government can still repress a referendum, i.e. what's going on in Nigeria. Biafrans have been struggling for a referendum for how long? And the Nigerian government is repressing that. They're not legally adhering to them calling for a referendum. The United Nations, which, oh man, I don't really want to talk about the United Nations too bad, but the United Nations is a disappointment. And will always be a disappointment, because the United Nations is supposed to step in when a repressive government doesn't adhere to a legal binding standing when it comes to a referendum. So you got the Nigerians repressing the Biafran referendum. That is illegal. The United Nations and the World Court supposed to step in and enforce the legal binding and the adherence to the referendum. The United Nations is not doing that. The World Court is not doing that. And they're just sitting back watching these people be genocided every day. Our brothers and sisters, Biafran blood, getting murdered and genocided every day, because the United Nations and the World Court doesn't step in and force Nigeria to adhere to the referendum. You see what I'm saying? So that's the only difference between a referendum and a plebiscite, is one is legal binding, one is not legal binding. When it comes to the repressive government that you have to, and I even hate that to a certain point, because I feel like this, y'all, and this how I feel about this. I feel like a referendum, to be honest with my peoples globally, I feel like this. I feel like a referendum should not even be, how can I say? I don't like to use the word control, but you got to use the word control. I don't even like a referendum coming from oppressed peoples who are trying to get their human rights and self-determination to statehood. I don't think the nation that's repressing them and oppressing them should be the people that makes the judgment on the referendum. I believe that's totally irresponsible. I think a referendum should go through a world court. A referendum should go through the United Nations if the United Nations acted the way they're supposed to act. As a global government, as a global governing body, and in a world court. You feel me? Like a referendum for oppressed peoples who are demanding statehood independence should not go through the nation that's oppressing them. That's completely abnormal. That's completely backwards. If we have a world court and we have a world governing body like the United Nations supposed to be acting as, then the referendum should go through that, not the country that's repressing these oppressed people and ethnic groups. That is totally abnormal. That's totally repressive. That's totally oppressive, because you're still leaving the control of these people who want to separate in the hands of their own oppressors. You feel me? Like that's still colonialism, people. That's still imperialism. That's still giving control to the regimes that are oppressing these people who try to separate from them. So why does a referendum have to go through the country that's repressing you? It makes no sense. We need to find a way. We need to find a way to get that whole process revolutionized. That process is a flaw. The referendum process, the way it is right now, has a flaw. It's a flaw in it. Because you should not have to demand a referendum from the country or the government that's oppressing and killing your people. That makes no sense, because that government doesn't want those people to go. They want to keep those people enslaved and as laborers and as, chattel. You see what I'm saying? It's still slavery, people. It's still slavery no matter how you look at it. It's still slavery. Period. It's just in the modern times. It's just modernized. It's modernized slavery. And listen to what I'm saying. No enslaver should be in control of a process of the enslaved getting free or separate from their oppressor. They should not be involved in that process, man. And that's why so many of these referendums are on pause right now, because you have the dictatorship governments controlling the process of the referendum. This is why so many people are going around the world campaigning, trying to get other countries to intervene in the process of the referendum, which is, that's a good strategy. But 9 out of 10, that strategy ain't going to work neither, because these are allies of the same countries that are oppressing you. You feel me? So how do we win that? How do we win? You feel me? Some processes make it through. Don't get it twisted. Because you got certain governments who adhere to the legal binding of the referendum, like Ethiopia. Ethiopia is a good example, because they adhere to the legal binding when people demand for referendums. They have 10 regions that have all been requesting referendums, and all 10 of those regions have nation states, and they were let go. Feel me? So they're kind of like the example. We should be following the process of Ethiopia. Ethiopia is giving out independence and statehood to ethnic groups, even though as I was, paying attention and researching the Sidama, issues and the issues of the ethnic groups inside Ethiopia, the only concern that they would have is that a lot more ethnic groups will start to come out now since if the Sidama people gain nation state independence. They should expect that. You got to be prepared for that because it's ethnic groups all across this planet who want to be nationalized as a global people. And that process should be a process that's natural. It should be given. Is how I feel. If an ethnic group or a nation state that needs to be restored, who is already a nation and needs to be restored, I feel like that process is automatic. It should be an automatic process to restore these nations, these tribes, these ethnic groups back to their nationalized selves and their national identities and nationhood. That should be a natural, legal process. It should not be a problem at all. Just let the people go, man. Let the people go. Let the people go, man. It's what we should be shouting, man. Let the people go. Let all oppressed people go. Period. And it goes back to this example with the Bougainville referendum on the Solomon Islands, who just had their referendum the other day, is that they voted for independence from Papua New Guinea for autonomy. You feel me? Because these people of Bougainville wants to, and I'm telling you, it always goes back to this. Bougainville, the ones who had the referendum and who wants independence, guess what? The land that Bougainville sits on is enriched with resources. Copper. At one time, Bougainville was the world's largest producers of copper. Think about that. Before the colonizers came and colonized the Bougainville tribes and peoples that's on that landmass. At one point, this was the world's largest producer of copper. So the Bougainville people want to take back that resource. They want to take back that land so they can start to capitalize off of that as an independent political economic power and nation. And to be honest, let's keep it 100. We all know who was behind the Bougainville colonization. Australia, which sits south of Bougainville in the Solomon Islands and West Papua and Papua New Guinea, is Australia. Australia is a European nation where it was an indigenous black nation at first before the colonizers came. Australia is a British contraption. See all the connections? The British, the French, the United States always being the colonizers everywhere they go. And we know Australia and the British have been facilitating the genocide of the Bougainville tribes and peoples for over damn near 100-something years and more. It's documentaries on YouTube. Google it, YouTube it, and check out the struggle of the Bougainville self-defense struggle against Britain, the Dutch, and ultimately what became Australia. So we know Australia is facilitating the repression and the oppression and genocide of the Bougainville tribes on the Bougainville Island. See, at the end of the day, y'all, this is why I keep trying to tell y'all. At the end of the day, it may be people who look just like you, the government that's oppressing you, but there's always those European colonizers who are behind the scenes facilitating this whole genocide. Just like Britain is facilitating all these genocides, France is facilitating all these genocides in Africa. The British is the reason that Africans are in North America. The British is the reason that Africans are in South America. The British is the reason that there are Africans in the Caribbean islands and the whole African diaspora. Britain, France, the Dutch. and the United States of America ultimately at the end of the day, because the United States ain't nothing but Britain. That's British. United States is the British brother. The offspring of his brother, Britain, the United States. This is why all their flags are red, white, and blue. Understand nationalism. This is why Australia flag is red, white, and blue. This is why the United States of America flag is red, white, and blue. This is why Britain's flag is red, white, and blue. They're all one. You have to understand that. You have to understand this, people. That's European power. That's European imperialism. That's global white European imperialism, who facilitates all these genocides, all this repression. This is facts. Now, they will send people who look like us to oppress us, murder us, oppress us, and take our lands and genocide our people. They'll send people who look just like us to do the job. But who's behind that, facilitating all that? You feel me? We got to keep our eyes on the prize. Don't get tricked. Don't get tricked out of who the enemy is. Yeah, the enemy is people who definitely doing the dirty work for those European powers. And they are enemies too. People who look like us, who are still oppressing us and genociding us and killing us. They're the enemy too, but they have an employer. They have a boss. They have a backing, a machine that's pushing their buttons to do these things, which is the European collaborators in nations. Period, man. Let's focus on that. Let's keep that focus. So we know who's behind the Bougainville genocide and struggle to keep them oppressed and repressed, which is the British. So I'm so happy for the Bougainville people who finally getting their referendum pushed forward for nation statehood. Salute to those people, man. And salute to all their ancestors who died in the struggle and all their innocent civilians and people who died to see that day for the Bougainville referendum. Shout out to them. And shout out to the Sidama referendum, the Sidama tribes, the Sidama peoples and their referendum. And they also been fighting for this referendum for over 100 years to take back their own budget, to collect taxes, to change their language to their language, to make that the official language, to take back the resources in that region of Sidama in Ethiopia, to take back the political power, to regain their identity. This is what the Sidama struggle has been about. I wanted to run that down to you. It's to regain their national identity, culture, resources, and language. Shout out to the people who died in that struggle and who's still in prison behind that struggle, because they have political prisoners that's still locked up for that struggle. The Sidama people struggle. And actually, this is something, before I get off here, this is something that I really wanted to point out. The way Ethiopia does their referendums, and everybody else need to take example. If they are people who are willing to give people that human right to decide what they want to do, where they want to go. Do they want to be a nation? Do they want to be do they want to be under that same oppressive government? You got to give these people that human right. And I think the best system so far that I have seen is in Africa, in Ethiopia, which is this. This is stipulated in their constitutional. It says there's an actual constitutional provisions which requires the government of Ethiopia to organize a referendum for an ethnic group which requests a separate state. Let me say that again. This is a simple process. Wouldn't it be so nice if Nigeria was such a righteous processing, a nation that honors the process of human rights? Wouldn't it be a glorious thing if they was to honor the human rights process of a constitutional provision for a referendum? Wouldn't it be nice? But we know that's not going to happen. In Ethiopia, they have a system that's set up now that has to abide to the actual constitutional provisions, which requires the Ethiopian government to organize referendums for each ethnic group, which requests a separate state. A simple process, people. A simple process. This is what the West Papua people are asking for. This is what the Amazonian people are asking for. This is what the Biafran people have been asking for. The Aztlan Chicano people's been asking for. The Puerto Rican people been asking for. Catalonian people, Kurdistan people. Who else? The Palestinian people been asking for. The Republic of New Africa been asking for. It's a simple process of the referendum. And for these repressive nations to abide to that human right? Wouldn't it be a harmonious thing if these nations adhered to the human rights laws of the international laws of the international court? Who doesn't enforce these things? So we have to start to hold the international courts responsible for these repressive governments not adhering to human rights laws. When a people demands their rights to self-determination, it has to be abided by legally. Period. It has to be adhered to. Once it's not adhered to, now we're heading into illegal statuses, illegal standings. This gives any oppressed people the right to resist. You see what I'm saying? This is where resistance comes into play. You have the right to resist when any government doesn't adhere to the human rights of those people. Period. And this is for all the people who are diseducated, who don't seem to understand what's going on in the world. It's too many black people walking around the world who doesn't have political conscience. 2020, we have to change that. You don't have to be a political fanatic in order to gain political consciousness. It's just something that is a necessity. Political consciousness is a necessity. You must understand what's going on in the world. You must understand what's happening to your people. You can't do that without political consciousness, awareness. You must get involved in your people's struggle, man. That's all I'm begging. That's all I'm asking for any peoples. If you're sitting around and you're watching your people being genocided, you need to change your mind, man. You need to change your ways. You cannot keep sitting back and watching your people be repressed, oppressed, murdered, and genocide constantly 365 days out the year on the calendar. And some of these genocides been going on for over 100 years or better. Black people, new African people in America, 400 years, man. Are you going to still sit back and continue to put up with this oppression from the United States government as well? Just because you don't want to be listen to what I'm telling you, man. This does not make you evil. This does not make you a terrorist. This doesn't mean that you hate the people who oppress you. It's just the understanding that you have to understand your human right. I don't have to be a part of your country no more. If I feel like I'm not thriving in this government or under this government, then I have the right to self-determine to govern myself. My people have the right to demand self-governance of ourselves. If it hasn't changed, if radical change hasn't changed nothing, then you have the right to demand to be a separate people. There's nothing wrong with being a separatist. Separatism is not segregation. Segregation is a forced separation. Separatism is a volunteer separation and an understanding between nations and nationals of people. A separatist don't make you a terrorist. It's actually the opposite when you're dealing with dialectical materialism. It's the opposite. You're not a terrorist. No, you're just a person that loves your people. That's what you are. You're just a person that loves your culture. That's what a separatist is. You're just a person that loves your indigenous language. You're a person that wants your national identity. You want to have your identity restored. That's what a separatist is. Now ask yourself, what African doesn't want their original indigenous or their identity restored, period, or to obtain their own national identity? What African don't want that? Aren't you tired of being a European colonial subject? And I'm saying this to people who live in European countries. I'm talking about Africans who live in European countries. Aren't you tired of not having your own identity? I want to be African, not American. I'm not European. You see what I'm saying? It's a simple logical process of political consciousness. I'm not a white man, so I'm not American. I had national status before your people came and kidnapped my people. I was in Africa with a national identity, an ethnicity, an ethnic group who had political power, economic power, nationality, national identity. I had that before you kidnapped us and brought us to the African diaspora. I had that. I had my own language. I had my own spirituality. I had my own family, brothers and sisters. You brought me to America and took all that. I don't even have my indigenous tongue. I can't speak my indigenous language. I have some, not all. I have some of my African culture. I have some of my Igbo culture. I'm still learning. I'm still trying to take that back. I'm still trying to get that back from what the white man took from me. You feel me? You took my national status. You took my national identity. You took my human dignity as a person to exist as a global people. You took that from me. We don't have that. The majority of new Africans, misnomered African Americans, don't have that. At least some of our African brothers and sisters worldwide, y'all still have y'all languages. You still have your indigenous tongue. You can speak English and you can speak your original tongue. Most of us here can't speak none of that. We speak a colonizer's tongue, English. That's genocide. That's repression. That's slavery. Period. But I'm going to say that for another video. I'll say that for another video. But at the end of the day, man, let's clap it up for the, you know what I'm saying, the Sidama people. Congratulations to the Sidama people. Congratulations to the Bougainville tribes and the Bougainville people on their referendums. We hope their referendums truly become legalized. We hope their nation and states become truly legalized. Because we know how these colonizers do. They will continue to repress you. They would tell you that you have gained your, you know what I'm saying, national, your national referendum. They would tell you that, but then they'll turn their back on you and then still, you know what I'm saying, keep you repressed and brutalized and oppressed under their current regimes. We see that going on right now. They have told Palestine is an example. They've been telling Palestine for decades that they have got their statehood back, that they're recognized as a national people, that they're recognized as a nation, but they're still colonized. They're still not legally nationalized as a nation state. Palestine. Free all Palestinian people, man. You know New Africans is in solidarity with Palestine. We have always been in solidarity. They always been in solidarity with our struggle as black people who have been brutalized by racism, murder, and genocide in America. Palestine people have spoke up for new African black people in America. They have came to our aids. They have put our oppression on the national stage. So you know we are riding with Palestine. Palestinian people are our people. You feel me? As all oppressed people are. We are in solidarity with all oppressed people, period. So don't ever question what African Americans, aka New Africans, represent or what we stand on. We are in solidarity with all oppressed nations, all oppressed peoples, who all have the human right to self-determination, nationhood, statehood, sovereignty, and freedom, and harmonious liberty for all. That's what African Americans support. That's what New Africans support. Period. So you don't have to question who we down with and who we for. And we hope y'all are down for us and support us in the same harmonious way, because we're all struggling trying to get free. So I'm going to sign off on that note, man. Shout out to everybody who tuned in. Shout out to all my Biafran people, man. You know we bringing this together. You know we bringing New Africans, misnomer African Americans, the African diaspora, and the Biafran struggle in one clutch fist. 2020 and beyond. Free Biafra, free New Africa, free the people, free the mind, and most important, free the land. By any means necessary.